Hey guys, this week we're going to be using a code analysis tool called Understand by SciTools. You essentially give it your project directory and it spits out a ton of really useful metrics about your project. We'll get more into that later, but right now just going to go over how to install so you can start getting some of these features. So you're going to want to go to scitools.com/student, and you got two steps. You got to register for an account and you got to apply for the educational license. So once you register for the account, I guess it's bringing me to my sign in page, but essentially you just sign up with your Stevens email and give it your info. You got to go to your email and confirm your address, otherwise you're not going to be able to get the license. But then you go to the second page, you apply for the educational license, say that you're a student, and then you should come to a page which has your licenses. So looking at the licenses here, you'll need to copy this code in a minute, but then you're just going to want to go to this other page here, download, understand, download it for your platform. It should support anything that you guys are running, which is good. And once you have it downloaded, you want to open up understand. When I was installing, I will say on Windows, I got a warning saying that it couldn't add understand to my path. But we really shouldn't have to worry about that for this class. So if you get that warning, don't sweat it. So the next step is you'll see here that you're in the demo version, which is the default when you download. Hit already have a license code, and then paste in your license code from this page right up here. So once you do that, you should have full access to understand. And then we can move on to doing some analysis. Now that you've got understand installed, you're going to have to continue with the rest of the project here. The most important thing is picking a good project to work off of so you can get good results. You want a small/medium-sized project, preferably in Java. That's going to make it easier to set up and understand. And you want at least 5 releases. This is similar to some of the other projects, and you might be able to reuse that code if it meets this criteria. But really, just make sure you look for this. There's some online tools that help you calculate how many lines of code are in a GitHub repo. I would recommend using this code tabs, count LOC. You can put in the repo, and this is important, the master branch. You can put in different branch names for different releases, and then you can track the lines of code over time. You're going to have to put that into this Wilcoxon sign rank test to make sure that you have a statistically significant change in the number of lines of code, just to make sure that we could get good results out of the tool later. And I would recommend, if you're going to be doing this and you need to create some plots for it, look here or somewhere else online, and you can find how to do that same test in Excel. It'll probably make your life easier, and that way you have the data in Excel so you can look for the box plots. So once you get that set up and you pick your project, then you're going to go back to understand, and you're going to start analyzing the project. So continuing along with the steps here, once you pick your project, you make sure you have your box plots and the change in line of code makes sense. You can get into understand to understand the metrics for the different releases, and we're specifically going to focus on this list of metrics here. So the way that I would recommend doing that is opening up understand, hitting file, new, project, and this is where you're going to select the source code for the project that you're working on. So here I'm going to hit add directory. You can also add a Git repository. I haven't tested that myself, but you just need to make sure that you're on the right release branch if you're going to be looking at the different releases. Hit add directory, and I'm going to use the log4j example just because I already had it downloaded and I know that I can compile it. So once you have that selected, make sure you just have your project directory here and select the folder, and then you're just going to hit continue. So the setup for understand is pretty easy. I'm going to skip opening the existing project because I want to show you guys how to do it. And it's going to ask what you want to analyze. So for this case, we probably don't need to analyze the PHP files, the web stuff. If you want to, that's fine, but if you find that it's getting in the way of the analysis, I would say uncheck it. It might just be harder to sort out the results later if you have too much other stuff enabled. Make sure you save it to a location, and you probably want to tag the name here with the release number. So, if you're analyzing the 5 releases, you'll have 5 understand files, and then you'll be able to reference all of them later. It just might get a little confusing if you don't name them all. So hit create project, and it's going to do a little bit of analysis. And understand works pretty well out of the box, but you need to make sure that you pay attention to this parse accuracy metric here. So this is basically how well understand can analyze your code, and if it's improperly configured, it's not going to do a very good job. So if you have issues here, you can double click on parse accuracy, and now you go into the settings for how understand is parsing your code, and you want to make sure you configure it correctly. So you can see here that I've got the class paths, and it's got class paths for the Java 11 JDK. Put that in the options. I noticed that the compiler version, is 5. So depending on what the project is meant to be built on, or any other specific information for building your Java project, you need to look at the repo to figure that out, or maybe it'll just be right out of the box. But if you find that you have a low parse accuracy like this, try to update this to the version of Java you think it should be. In this case, I think the Java 11 that's in the class path is probably what we want. So I'm going to change this version here and hit OK, and it's going to reanalyze the project if we say yes. So it's going to parse it, 98% accuracy. I would say that's good enough for this project, and that way we have good enough metrics to work with. So you can go through here, explore all the stuff, and then understand itself. And I would definitely suggest you do that to understand your code better. But for the assignment itself, what you really want is to get your results into a format like this so you can do some analysis. So you'll see for each one of these, there's a CSV export with each one of the classes, as well as the specific metrics that we select. So the way that we do that is we go to metrics, export metrics, and then you want to select the proper metrics. So there's a whole list of them here, and it's a little annoying to scroll through, but you're just going to have to spend a little bit of time looking for the metric name, which is probably on the left here, like the count line code. Make sure you select all of these and understand. So I see count line code right here. I'll select that. Make sure your metrics to export matches that list over there. And you can also, down here, click view file after export. I definitely suggest that that's on. It'll just open it up right in Excel afterwards, so you can make sure you have everything set up properly and your metrics are looking good. Also make sure that you have right column titles on so you can understand what the metrics are. So let's say we do that, we click export, and we're going to get this file. It opens right up. I only have one metric selected, but it'll show you your method and then the count line code metric. So you're going to take all these and you're going to compile them into a sheet similar to this one here for each version and create the graphs. Once you've got your graphs created for all of the metrics over time, you're going to want to pay attention to the rest of the steps in the assignment. It's really important not just to generate these graphs on the metrics, but to understand what they really mean and how their change over time might indicate something being wrong with the project, some code smell, further areas that you'd want to investigate. Have you, been actually working on this project? So, make sure you go through, do the analysis, continue using the statistical tests to make sure that what you're looking at is something of importance, and like compare the lines of code and everything else described here. And if you have any questions, just send me a message on Slack.